I think that the way that we approach getting dressed is broken. So never go into your closet or shopping or packing for a trip or going to an interview saying, what should I wear? That is not a good question. That does not yield a good result. She taps me on the shoulder and she's like, this is nice and all, like this costume that you're wearing, but why don't you be more you? They've achieved their big audacious goal. Like they've gotten there. They're at the table, they're on the boards, they're in the room.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they feel like they don't look the part. Because what got them there was a lot of twisting themselves into a pretzel. The way that women are getting dressed, it's not the clothes, it's actually your feelings about your own self-worth. If you could wear only one thing, what would it be?
Hey everyone, do me a quick favor and double check that you are a follower or subscriber wherever you listen to the show. I'd be unconditionally grateful. Every new follower, listener, and subscriber helps us keep creating content we love and that you enjoy. It's the best way to ensure you never miss one of my Unconversations. You are on this journey with us, and thank you for that. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Unconversations podcast. I am your host, Dr. Alison, and today is going to be a very exciting show. I have Melanie Lippman. She is the Executive Presence Strategist. And Melanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Alison.
You and I were just talking just briefly, and we've just been waiting to do this podcast together. And, it's interesting. I always like to try to tell people how I know my guests. And I stalked you on LinkedIn. And we had people in common, but we did not know each other. And it's amazing to me when you can connect with someone in such a short period of time that you and I have. And I just feel like I can be like, hey, I'm in your neighborhood. Let's go grab lunch. And you'd be like, I will kill you if you don't let me know you're in town. And I feel exactly the same way. Mm-hmm. So that is what I feel our connection is to one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to start out because I love this Executive Presence Strategist. Before we kind of go in, usually I don't do this at this part of the show, but I think it's such a unique title, and what you do and how you do it, I find to be very unique. So briefly, if you can share with us what that title and briefly what you do.
Yeah, so my clients are female leaders, so CEOs in the C-suite, VPs, directors. They've achieved their big audacious goal. Like they've gotten there. They're at the table, they're on the board, they're in the room.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they feel like they don't look the part. Because what got them there was a lot of twisting themselves into a pretzel, because it's a lot of women, male-dominated fields, a lot of doing the things that needed to be done to be taken seriously, to look professional. And unfortunately, in our world, success normally doesn't look like a woman who's a size 20 or a woman who's 5 foot tall or just a woman in general. So there's been a lot of masks and a lot of pretending. And so women get into that room and they decide that they want to dress in a way that actually feels true to me. So my job is to help them craft that in a way that feels strategic, that feels like it's confidence building, that feels like it's unique to them, but also helps establish their presence and their authority.
Yeah, this is how you just described that is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, because you're right. There's industries, or it's how we feel. We're looking at ourselves. So we feel, oh, we don't want to dress too loudly, or red's very aggressive color, or something to that degree. And I love these glasses, and I get so many compliments on them. And people are like, you need to wear those more often. So I think they're turning into like my signature, my signature look. But we're going to definitely get more into what you you do, how you inspire people, and what your journey was to where you gained your confidence, because you have some amazing, amazing pictures of yourself on LinkedIn that promotes what you do for your internal self, your outer self, and how you're inspiring other women. So I just wanted to mention that. But as I like to start every podcast with the unword effect, and you were pretty excited about that. And I will tell you, your words, not many of them have been used before, but regardless if they have or not, the thought that you went into with these words, and the deep reflection that you went into, it was almost a becoming journey for you, in a way, if you would agree with that. So let's first talk about your process, and then I would like to go through each of your words individually, if that sounds good to you.
Absolutely. You guide me.
All right. Well, let's get into your process, because I really enjoyed when we were talking about that a bit during our prep meeting.
Yeah. So I really feel that the way that I kind of came to where it's funny how people always say, like, it all will make sense in the end.
And we're like, what does that mean?
Can I get the Cliff Notes version, or can you tell me the middle or towards the end? Like, how is that going to connect? Really?
Right.
But one of my first really core memories of growing up is my family owns an accessory store in Bayside, Queens, right outside of New York City. And what I got to witness from a very young age is women coming in to my parents' store and wanting to buy something. And for me, it wasn't just about them getting the item. It was really understanding who they were and really understanding what they were actually looking for. So a woman came into my mom's store and was going to her son's wedding, and she was explaining to me, and a lot of people that shopped in my parents' store, I knew, first of all, I was like 10. So it was like not a normal thing that, like, you're going into an accessory store and a 10-year-old is helping you, right? Like, it's a little, like, off the beaten path. But because it was a small community, like, I knew most of the customers. So this woman came in, she shopped there for years, and she came in to buy earrings for her son's wedding, but there was a little bit of a twist to it, that yes, her son was getting married, but she was also going through chemo treatments and she was getting divorced. So she came into the store not wanting to go to the situation. And so I took her on this process of finding a beautiful pair of earrings and a coordinating clutch to wear to her son's wedding. But throughout the processes, I really helped her find a connection with herself and with her personality and something that brought her joy. And
amazing.
So from a really young age, I got to witness how transformative clothing or accessories get to be. And that is not something that we witness as women. We look at clothing as punishment, as a way to fix ourselves and to look taller and thinner, and that we are wrong and clothes are made to fix us. And unfortunately,
yes.
Growing up, because I also went to school for fashion merchandising and all of that stuff, that was the messaging that I was taught. But how at such a beautiful point in my life, I got to actually really realize that wasn't the case. And so my goal has been, since that moment, is to have that experience for every single woman that I interact with, is to show that clothes can actually be something that's a portal and not a punishment.
Well, absolutely, because if you think about some of the very large companies, I mean, you're talking about black, blue, gray, any muted color, beige, any muted color you can have. That was sort of the trend. So if you were to put a pop of color or something in there, it'd be like, whoa, that's that's a bit much. Mm-hmm. So fantastic. Well, this first word of yours is really cool. And that is unarmored. Like, that is a big word. Mm-hmm. Please tell us what you were thinking about while you were like, yeah, that's the word I need to talk about. And it's got to be the first one that I want to talk about on the show today.
So even though I had that beautiful experience when I was 10, and even though it was so transformative, when I went into the corporate world, I was, still am. I'm 5'1". I'm a woman. And I also was the youngest woman in the room. I'm not always the youngest woman in the room, but I'm still the 5'1" and still the woman.
Why does that change so quickly? You're the youngest at one moment and then bam.
Like, what's going on here? So, but what I realized, I worked in the fine jewelry industry, so I sold very expensive jewelry. Think like $100,000 bracelets to like Saudi princess and oil tycoons. Like,
wow.
This is luxury. This is not like a pair of like earrings to buy for your daughter's sweet 16. So ultimate luxury. But what happened very quickly is I felt like I did not belong. Like this is a world I do not know how to operate in. I'm unsure. Let me go and try to act like it. So I went and bought all of these clothes to prove that I look the part and went into debt. So Chanel bags and Louboutins and blazers and like just like, so I armored myself up to try to look the part, which looking back was really interesting because I knew better than anyone that clothes should not be used in that experience. And that really was such a point where I was using clothes as really such a proving energy, and I know so many women do that.
100%. I live in Dallas, and it is Dallas proper, and you see that a lot. So and they are armored and ready to go. And not all women, but there is I think there's an armored level and then a statement level that you're trying to connect. When you said you don't belong, what was that internal conversation with yourself about? Because I think what you're probably going to say, there's going to be not just one, but a ton of women that could be like, Melanie, I absolutely relate to what you're talking about.
I was really good at my job. I still am really good at my job. I mean, I'm a perfectionist, high performer, overachiever. Like, let's overthink every single thing, and like, let's overthink the overthinking. So like, I was always prepared. I was on point. I knew everything, but there still was a part of me that just felt like I didn't deserve to be there. And I don't know. I mean, and it really comes to, there was a lot of proving energy that I felt in my life of what expectation was of, and that's even the armoring part not only goes to clothes. It's like, this is your religion, this is your politics, this is who you're supposed to marry, this is what your life is supposed to look like. A lot of like, your hands at the map, no, go, and not a lot of this is what I want or this is what I desire.
Very much so. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of people who can relate to that, and I can definitely relate to that on that level, and especially the belonging part. I mean, I know what that is for me of some of the messaging of telling me that I don't belong in certain places. Was there any of that like for you, or were these just not outside messages? These were just more internal messages that you were telling yourself?
A little bit of both. I think it was mostly, I would say 90% internal, 10%, working in corporate there's very specific expectations. There's very high parameters, very high standards. And because I was in sales, there was a bottom line that was being driven as well. So I put the pressure on myself. So it wasn't necessarily that someone said, hey, it was no, in order for this to happen. And then also kind of like what we were speaking about before, like, this is what success looks like. And I didn't look like it. Right.
Yeah. Excellent point. Well, I think that actually is a great segue, into your next word, which is unworthy. So yeah, and that word, sadly, too many women identify with that word.
Mm-hmm.
It really, and even some of the women that I've had on my podcast, that is their word, but the where it came up for them is obviously very different. So what was that word when you were like, sadly that's my word, and what made that word really stand out for you that you felt so unworthy?
I think that when it came to, I mean, over the past few years, I've been doing a lot of personal development work, a lot of work in myself. And when I find that, like, where a lot of this stuff came from, like, that is my core wound of that I felt that I wasn't worthy of love, appreciation, of nice things. Like, there was always, and I see this with women all of the time, like, we can't accept a compliment. Like when someone even gives us a compliment, like, oh my God, I love your shoes. You need to get into a litany of reasons why you're wearing nice shoes. Like, I got them on sale and this is not like, it's like, we just can't say it. And I like,
Yeah.
And that is me to a T of like, I just can't receive. And so there was so much of this, like, needing to prove. And I also even realized that some of the things with even my clothes, so yes, I was doing a lot of at the beginning, I was doing a lot of like wearing black and wearing things in luxury. But then my next step was like, let me draw a lot of attention to myself because I do like having fun with fashion. But what I was actually realizing is that I was doing this thing that was called peacocking, which was, I'm going to put all of this like energy so you're looking at my clothes and not at me.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of
when did you realize that aha? I've never heard that term before. When was it where you were like, holy shit, this is also what I'm doing?
So the way that my career really started out is, so I worked in corporate for 10 years, and I started creating my own like personal brand and using my style as a tool. And then when my son was born, I took a step back because I didn't want to be traveling all over the world with a newborn at home. And that's when I started getting into personal styling. And so I was just really doing like what you expect a personal stylist to do. So, but I was working with executive women and, doing like shop your closet and going personal shopping and creating outfits. And what I realized is that a lot of the women that I would work with, they would have beautiful clothes in their closet and they wouldn't wear them. So they would like, I would come back 6 months later, I'd be like, did you love that leather jacket? That was awesome. And they're like, you were going to wear this on the stage, did you? And a lot of the messaging that I would get from them is like, well, I wasn't ready yet, or that's too much. Or like there was this, we would paint this amazing picture of how they were going to show up, and then they would suck it back because I wasn't there to tap them on the shoulder and remind them who the hell they were. Like, so they were like, they would go back to wearing their black wrap dress or their black blazer and all of that. So that is when I started really exploring personal development myself, and then decided that I was going to become a certified neurocoach.
Wow.
So because I realized that the way that women are getting dressed, it's not the clothes, it's actually your feelings about your own self-worth.
Sure.
And deserving to wear the clothes. If you don't feel like a woman that deserves to take up space and get attention, you're not wearing a hot pink blazer, even though you could put it on your Pinterest board and buy it and have it hanging in your closet. You can't put your arms through that thing and confidently walk on a stage if you're not a woman who feels that she is worthy to take up space.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
So during that whole entire era is when I started to realize, like, because obviously all the work that we do, it's us healing ourselves in some
100%
form. So I was like, I am my own biggest client.
Right. Aren't we all?
Right.
Yes. Yeah. That is so, what struck me, too, when you were just talking, I was listening to, another podcast, and, there was a lady talking about, money and why money itself is very difficult for women to talk about. Like, why aren't we saying, yeah, well, I just got this major deal, it's worth X and blah, 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 and really showcasing and, but I think we look at that as we're boasting or bragging instead of showing our accomplishments, and our accomplishments can be big and huge. And that's not boasting or bragging. That is, hey, this is what I was able to do. This is how I was able to help. And men do that all the time. Yeah, all the time. And so I think when you were mentioning that, I think you're absolutely right. It's like, oh, where did you get those shoes? And the simple question could just be, I got them at Nordstrom's. But no, I got them at Nordstrom's. And then, they were this amount and then they were on sale. So because they were on sale, I was worthy enough to have them. When, okay, well, if they were $350 and you can afford to have it, who cares? Like, that's great. So I think that was so beautifully said. I love this word because no one's used it. The unarmored, no one's used. And I loved your unworthy, especially when it comes to how women view themselves. But unbecoming, that one really struck me when you mentioned that word. What was that journey for you where unbecoming was like, yeah, that's got to be talked about?
It's every day. I'm literally, how they say, like, you need to learn the lesson again. I am like, we're here again.
I know.
Let's hear it again. One of the things when I got the neurocoaching certification and then really dug a lot of deep work is realizing that we all are made up of adaptive behaviors, and a lot of them are not ours. So the person that normally we become when we're in our 40s was not by our choice in any way,
definitely.
Form. It's just like everyone's thoughts and feelings and us trying to make everyone happy and gauge everyone's reaction. And really got to a point where like you could sit there and look back and be like, who is this person and what is this life and how did I even get here? And I could tell you how I got here, but like the biggest lesson that I've actually learned in the past 2 weeks is I've never gotten crystal clear of what Melanie desires.
Yeah. Yes.
I've spent my whole life asking everyone else what they want and not me.
Yes. What was it, if you are able to identify this, is when you felt your becoming and you were like, no, in order for me to be able to take care of family, business, I need to bring myself up. Was there a significant, or was it through your journey as you were going and getting your certification, or a combination of that?
I think that it always has been, and I'm very, I don't want to say like spiritual, but I definitely am very connected to the universe and to signs and all of that. It's been trying to come through for a really long time, and I've gotten winks of it. But my sign, your sign, was being diagnosed with breast cancer. Of being like, okay, like my body was trying to tell me this, my body was trying to tell me that. I'm like, yeah, I'll just suck it back and do it more, and let's be more efficient, and let's do it, let's override this, and what more can I put on my plate? And then when I was actually forced to pause and realize the way that I'm living my life is not healthy.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you and I met just around your time of your diagnosis, which is why I said, hey, and that was last year. And I said, hey, let's get you teed up for season 2. It'd be just amazing to have you on then, because, and you also said to me that you were going through a lot of other things, and that you felt you wanted to be able to really talk about your journey at the appropriate time, and this is why we sort of delayed it in for season 2, which I'm so happy that we did. You and I have a mutual friend in common, and you both were diagnosed roughly almost at the same time, which I've never had that happen before with 2 amazing guests that I wanted to have on the show. And I, it's interesting because for me, I did not have anything to that degree at all. But there was something where I've talked about in other podcasts and even on this show that when I turned 50, I did not want to bring all this past shit with me, because it was really holding me back personally, professionally. And I also talk about that I don't believe I could have my business flourish the way that it is. And I don't believe that I could have these really enriched conversations with other leaders like yourself until I really got honest and clear with myself and went through my journey. What was that like for you? You just mentioned that you were diagnosed. You have this amazing business. What was it that you were sort of saying to yourself or needed to do, like, okay, now I really do need to take care of myself? What was kind of that experience like for you?
I think that going through a diagnosis, like, first of all, it takes a freaking long time, which is very frustrating, but also, again, hindsight, like, you need that time to process and you need the time to kind of heal and then go through like surgery, then radiation, and then going on medication and all of that. So it's kind of like a time to reacclimate to yourself, but then also like really to, a beautiful time that you can reevaluate like how you're working and how you're working with clients. And one of the things that when I got my diagnosis, I was really afraid to share with my clients. There was something inside of my head, and it comes from, of course, lack and scarcity, that I was afraid that if I shared with my clients that I had breast cancer, they would leave because I couldn't help them and they would need me and they would go find someone else.
Wow.
There's that unworthy thing again.
Yeah, there we go. And that obviously was something you were telling yourself that was going to happen. And then in reality, what happened?
The complete opposite.
Right.
Like every single client's like, how can I sign up for next year? So it was like the craziest thing that I was like, how is my business going to survive? And how am I going to do this? And and literally in conversations. And the beautiful thing that actually has gotten to happen in the past, let's say, what is it now, like 6 months since I was diagnosed, is now I'm having even more honest conversations with my clients and I'm being even more vulnerable, which is giving them permission to be even more vulnerable and even more honest. And the other thing that's great that gets to happen, but not so great, is my clients would always talk about menopause and perimenopause, and I would kind of sympathize, but now I really sympathize.
You know what? You're 100% about that, because when I was really shifting the way I wanted to work with my clients just because of my own revelation of things, and then when I decided that I wanted to do this podcast and have these really great, honest conversations with very successful leaders, I can't expect someone to divulge things that they think can help other women, other successful business women, or just people in general, unless I was willing to do that myself. And I don't feel that the level of these conversations that I've been having to have with leaders like you is if I wasn't willing to do that myself. And there was a bit of that fear that I did have, because I talked about depression, anxiety. I've talked about that I'm estranged from my parents. I talked about all those, and those are really big things that can prevent you from moving forward in a lot of ways, and especially that unworthy. Our past dictates sometimes how we truly feel and about ourselves and how we show up into the world. And so I think you do that so beautifully within your business. But before we get into that, I love this. So that's why I usually ask my guests for 3 on words, but this last one is really cool. So undressed.
So one of the things that happened when I was very young, and I think all kind of women go through it, is my body started changing. And I started developing, at the ripe age of 12 or 13, when we already feel awkward and weird and that we don't belong in middle school, where all of our weird adaptive behaviors come to fruition. And what happened with me is that I love my mother, but was raised by my mom, who thought that the solution to that was basically to dress me in Talbot's clothes. Mm. So a lot of the way that besides the armoring and the worthiness, that there was this concept of I didn't know how to dress my body, and I didn't know how to feel good in clothes. And so clothes were definitely being used as a way to hide and conceal and basically weaponize myself. Your body is broken. And if you think about it, that's the lens that we all hear of clothes. Here's how to look taller. Here's how to look thinner. Here's how to look this. You are wrong. Clothes will fix you. And so
correct.
It wasn't until kind of through this whole entire process of me figuring out that clothes can be fun and a way to self-express myself, that I started to have to be okay with just wearing clothes a little bit differently. And even maybe, being okay with wearing a bathing suit. And that's not saying that you get to wake up every single day and just, love your body, because that's fake. But just
that's a journey.
That's a journey in itself. But just really that acceptance.
Yes.
Of really that self-love, and also being my body has gotten me here. It, bore a child, and it's, and it fought cancer, and it did all of these things. I need to be grateful for it.
Absolutely.
And I need to celebrate it. And what better way to do that with clothes, and not to use it to fix me, but to celebrate me.
Yeah, I love that change in that psychology part of it, because when I first started out in my career, and even when I graduated with my PhD in organizational psychology, and you're going into businesses, and I can't begin to tell you how many suits I had with big shoulder pads in them, and I didn't have a lot of pop of color at all, and I was very buttoned up, and I would probably say that buttoned up probably started to dissipate maybe 6-7 years ago. And just because I think for my journey with my own executive coach and my therapist, it was you need to let Alison out, because she is a very vibrant, energetic, and lively, and humor, and you need to let her out. And I think with what you do within your business to give women that confidence, not only internally, but outer with their clothes, I think is just exceptional. It's just exceptional. So I kind of wanted to get into a bit, again, just have you talk about your journey of how you actually started your company, and again, kind of because I think there are going to be women that, one, I know you work with very high level women, but I think you could also speak to ones too that can probably learn a lot from you, where you said, hey, I put myself into debt, and you don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, really the first part that I find really interesting about your company is it seems to me that you want women first and foremost to be comfortable in their own skin, and I loved when you said that. So if that's kind of a good place for us to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of those really pivotal moments in my career was when I was being very, very armored. Was my boss, bless her heart, tapped me on the shoulder in a meeting. And she was very, she's the CEO of a jewelry company, but was a former corporate attorney and was in finance as well. So talk about as they get, like straight and narrow, as they get. She tapped me on the shoulder and she's like, this is nice and all, like this costume that you're wearing, but why don't you be more you? And it was literally like a punch in the gut, because I thought I was doing all of the right things, checking all of the boxes. And I was like, come again? And she's like, your client's like you. Why don't you be more you? Very similar to what you were just sharing about, like, you need to let her come out.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
and in my head, I was like, I don't know if she belongs here, like sort of thing. And it's like,
so she was right with what she was saying, which is why it was such a gut punch
trigger
to you.
Because I'm like, I just spent all of this money and I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then it also unraveled into a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, I don't know who this is. Like, what do you mean, go be you? When like all I did was, how do you want me to be? Tell me. Like, so like, how do you craft who this is with that when I've never done the work to figure that out? So what I did is I took myself on my own journey to figure out what I now have trademarked, and what one of my signature programs is created my own style code, which is creating your own unique brand and visual signature for how you show up. So you get to take the decision fatigue out of what to wear, but also through the lens of who you are, what you're drawn to, what your values are, and create structure to it. So that's really where, I did that for myself first, because that was really, really important. Was I need to create it seemed like mayhem. Like I thought I was following the rules. What do you mean? So I needed to create my own rules, and I needed to figure out what that was. So I created that. And then what was really cool is I was still in corporate. So then I got to test drive it. So I would wear a lime green skirt and a lace top to a meeting with Neiman Marcus and be like, well, how'd that land?
Yeah. Yes.
So I got to test drive it. So that's really where me realizing, okay, we all need some structure to this, as opposed to just buying some one-off things to do that. And so that's really where the whole entire methodology started. And then when I started bringing it to other women, I helped really craft it. And one of the things is, so I went on the journey of becoming a personal stylist, but I didn't like it. I tried it, but I felt like I was becoming more of the problem, and I would create codependent relationships with my clients.
So let me ask you that's a great clarification. So in your opinion, what is the difference between a stylist and what you feel that you provide your clients?
A stylist gives you outfits that is their interpretation of how you should show up.
Okay. And what you're providing is the getting your clients to love themselves, get to know them, have a good time, and picking out clothes that represent and feel good to them, that they're collaboratively working on with you and to create that. Say that last part again. My apologies.
And it has to make sense, because there needs to be some structure to it, because all of my clients are very analytical. And so it can't feel frivolous, because they've always thought, I don't have the fashion gene. I'm not creative. I can't wear nice things. So I'll just wear the black and the navy.
Right.
So,
And it's quick. It's quick. Right.
what we do is even quicker because we've decided, we figured out, okay, I wear these two types of prints. When I wear this type of pants, I do that. So we create this code. So it not only gets to feel like them, it also gets to be no decision fatigue because we've already done the work. The other part also that's really, really important is it needs to be their decision and they need to be excited about it. And I need to have their buy-in. But the other thing is we need to take a little bit of a look back to heal those childhood or middle school or first time in career wounds of that you needed to overperform in order to feel like you fit in. Because if you don't figure out where that need to prove when it comes to your clothes came from, you will always doubt yourself and you will always have that glass ceiling. So it's not from a place of like, let's go to therapy. It's from okay, I notice something's coming up for you when we talk about florals because you say that you want it and you're not doing it. Like, has there ever been a time? Again, normally the conversation always is they've been taught sometime in their life that they were too much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will tell you, just in some of the leaders that I have talked to, it's interesting that phrase "too much" has come up, and I've asked them to define that because I think that "too much" has different interpretations or experiences that each of my leaders have gone through. How do you work with your clients? So, because whenever there was when you and I were talking, there is blending psychology with personal style. And I love that. And so I remember I used to hide when I would tell people I went to graduate school for organizational psychology, because the first thing they would be like, oh my God, are you analyzing me? Or if I told them I've done clinical work in the past, they're like, oh my God, am I crazy? I'm like, I'm not even doing any of that. But now I will, but I wasn't before. But when you're working with your clients, do you phrase it that way with them? Do they understand that there is a bit of psychology in what you're doing or changing, or maybe not changing behaviors, but exposing some behaviors that maybe is bringing awareness that they do want to change, so they can let this real person that they really want to be come out?
I think it's yes, and I would say the majority of my people come to me because they want to finally feel good in their clothes. No one has ever come to me and says, I want to change my adaptive behaviors about my wardrobe. Like the end result they always want is the clothes. Like that's what that's what they come to me for. However, they probably wouldn't have been drawn to me if they didn't realize that they've tried a bunch of things that have failed. So they've tried all of the other ways. They've tried the capsule wardrobe. They've tried the subscription box. They went and hired a personal shopper or personal stylist, but that just added more stuff and more confusion to it. So there are definitely people that I guess enter my world, and not that they say I don't want to be psychoanalyzed, but they're sort of like, I just want to feel good. And like they try to operate at the surface.
Sure.
Which I think we all want to operate at the surface. It's fun up there. Like who wants to go to the middle of the onion? Like,
denial is the best place to be in.
Exactly. Unfortunately, denial costs you a lot of money. So it's like I will have clients that literally will entertain working with me, maybe decide, oh, I don't have time to do that. And then I literally will get a panic phone call from the Amex lounge of being like, I went and spent another 10 grand at Neiman Marcus again before a conference. I need to do this. Like, this is not helping. So like, you can't just buy more stuff. You have to deal with what got you there. And again, it doesn't have to be from like, we need to go fix or we need to go heal. Just be like, oh, that's interesting. And a lot of it, because a lot of my clients, yes, have been told that they were too much, or they're maybe first generation to get an MBA or a JD or to be in the C-suite. So the way that they were raised in their relationship with clothing is very different to feeling okay with buying a $500 blazer or buying a nice watch or a pair of shoes. Like, and a lot of conversations with my clients is, I have these beautiful watches and handbags, I feel bad wearing them.
Wow. Wow.
So unless we just, again, not have to aggressively deal with it, but just be like, something deeper is there than just a clothes thing. Like, it sounds terrible, like this is such a horrible phrase and I need to find another one. Like, you can't if you put a pig in lipstick, there's still a pig. Like, if you don't feel confident in your clothes or feel like you belong on a stage, doesn't matter what you wear, you still won't feel deserving of doing that. So we just need to get you to a place of like what feels good for you, as opposed to what. And that's like the influencer economy right now, is you can think you could scroll on social media and buy a bunch of random stuff and finally have a wardrobe that feels good. I don't care if you spend $10 or $10,000. If it's not meant for you, it ain't gonna feel good. You can't buy someone else's clothes. It's always gonna feel like a costume. So
yeah, 100%. I think that's where you and I have a lot of commonality in what we do in helping and assisting our clients. I can go in and I can put the greatest plan, most successful plan together for you that is going to bring your business to X. But if we don't have some of this internal worked out, or if you don't see how maybe you're a part of why the company isn't moving forward, then we need to work on that. Because if you try something over and over and over again, maybe we need to begin to look a little internally. And that's where I think the blending psychology with what you do with business style and my personal psychology as it relates to business, I find fascinating, because there is a ton of commonality. And it's interesting because when I started talking to leaders on my show, I didn't even ask this, but so many of them went back to childhood and really talked about some significant moments. Some of those were great moments, which has done wonderful in their trajectory of their professional and personal lives. Others had some other very painful moments, but how they've talked about in dealing, coping, and to where they are today, and still extremely successful. Those stories are just as important to tell. But, if we don't sort of focus on those things, they are going to keep rearing their their head again, as you and I sort of talked about. How do you work with a client? Because that story, let's go to the one that spend an extra 10,000 on something, and you're like, how do you work with a client like that? Because I think some of the tips and tricks that you might be able to, because like you said, you don't care if someone is spending $10 or someone who's spending 10,000, the result could possibly still be the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a few ways that I work with clients. The first way is I have a 5-week program. It's called the Style Code, and that's where we craft your code. So we really put all of this structure in the strategy. So you get a color analysis, so you understand what colors look good on you, but how you want to wear color, and what messages, because there's a psychology of fashion psychology of like, what message are my clothes sending as well, because that's another part of it, because there's a lot of messages that we're sending from what we're wearing. So we really craft your visual signature, so it's getting clear of what colors you wear, how you add interest. Like, every single woman comes to me and they're like, I just don't want to feel frumpy. So we figure out what not frumpy is, like on what polish, and we put together a signature for that. And then really understanding what are your proportions of your body. So it's really that code. And what's really cool about that program is we use your closet, because most women have great, I would say most women have great closets. You're just not utilizing it correctly. And that's why you keep going shopping. So we make sense of that and we put the structure from it. And that's just great because you just have this code. So getting dressed goes from overwhelm to just being easy.
Melanie, is this a time when we look in the closet, we're like, oh my God, I had no idea I had that really cool shirt.
Yeah, or literally, I will help a client style a thing that they only wore with black pants 5 other ways, and they're like, I'm like, have you ever thought of wearing this and this and this and this and this? Yeah. Or like those pieces, because we buy these things, we don't buy them because we hate them. We buy them because there was something about them that we liked. We just didn't know what to do with it once they came into our closet.
Absolutely. Great point. Great point.
That's really where we figure out, like, what is your visual identity when it comes to getting dressed, and we put a lot of structure to it. The other way that I work with clients is we go through that because it's a signature and you need to do that, but then also helping women step into their visibility. So it's where we really craft what is your stage presence? What is your video presence? Like, do you need a new photo shoot? Because I can't tell you 95% and people that are on LinkedIn need a new headshot. Like, sort of like, let's craft how you show up, because all of my clients know that they need to be doing the thing. It's just they don't probably have the outfits hanging in their closet, so they hesitate. So we make sure that they have what they're needing to be wearing, but then also, that's the moment where we also deal with, like, can you step on a stage wearing that and being okay with taking up the space?
Yeah. How do you also work with clients? Because you have a personality of somebody, right? And then you have the clothes and the body type on, and then kind of going along with what you just said, they maybe a keynote speaker, or they're going to be doing a TEDx, or just they just started a new C-suite job. How do you work with a client where those two things match up with one another?
We make it a code.
Wow.
Because the thing is most of my clients will come to me and they're like, I live 5 different lives. Like, I have clients that are so interesting. I have to say, I work with some of the coolest people, but are multifaceted. So, like, they are a TEDx speaker, they're a team leader in their company, and then they teach yoga on the side. Like,
right. Yes.
So they think that they have to cut that part of themselves off, that the yoga instructor doesn't belong in the board meeting. I'm like, no, the yoga instructor gets to go to the board meeting. The yoga instructor could probably help the board meeting better than the rest of the board. So let's bring her in, and because we are meant to think that not all of us deserves to be in that room when the whole person got invited and got offered the big salary. So let's bring all of her in and make it okay. So that's how we craft the visual signature. You don't need to look like everyone else. Like, that's actually where the disconnect is. Bring your whole body, bring your whole personality, bring your whole energy into the room, because what the biggest transformation I've seen my clients have is when they bring their femininity into the boardroom.
Wow.
Yeah. Because that's
talk a little bit more about that.
So a lot of the armor is how every single woman that has been brought up in a male-dominated field is, I need to prove myself, and I'm as good as the man, if not better. So what if I need mat leave? Like, I can do more work. Like, literally like that. And then when I work in the values work with my clients, so one of my clients is a CEO for a huge healthcare company. And she came to me wearing black, like, literally, she's like, you are not getting the black. And she is an autumn, and like a soft autumn, and black is just so draining on her. So she didn't care that it wasn't the most flattering. I didn't win her with that one, even though she saw. But when we went into her core values, and when she explained to me the core values of the type of the leader that she has, is that she has an open door policy, that she wants people to come to her when there is an issue. She doesn't want to be the leader of, like, I'm the best in what I do. And I was like, okay, I love that. And I love that that's the leader. Black's not sending that message.
Right.
Black is building a wall. And that is how I got her out of black. So every single person has their own little journey of how we're going to craft that code. But even another one of my clients is a litigator for a huge pharmaceutical company. And we crafted how she went to court each day, because each day has a different thing that needs to happen within the trial. And one of the days she wore navy blue, but she paired it with a blush. And so she herself softened as she was,
I bet,
doing her argument. And she realized that the energy and how she was perceived softened, but also she softened in the way that she was delivering her message and how she thought things. And she ended up being like, she's like, I couldn't have gotten a better outcome from this trial because I showed up as a different person because I had a different energy.
100%. And that's where I do believe clothes give off energy. And I also believe that clothes can either make you appear approachable or not very approachable. And the reason why I wanted you to explain a bit more about the femininity is because femininity does not mean weakness at all. And it doesn't mean we can't be strong leaders. It doesn't mean we can't be smart. It doesn't mean we can't bring our whole selves to our businesses, to in life in general. That is one of our assets, not one of our weaknesses. And so that is why I wanted you to explain that a bit more, because I think that's a very important part, because it is you as a leader, it is you how you show up in your business, and it's you how you show up in life. And I think that is just, I think it's really beautifully said. Let me ask you, you mentioned something, and when we were talking in our prep meeting, what does it mean for you in letting go? Because I feel that there has been a really incredible shift for you, not only how you have shown up since our last conversation, but also just how you talk about your business. And I think that's really important, because I was just mentioning to you that when I turned 50, that was a shift for me to let go, so I can be a better leader in my company, a better creator and host with my podcast, a better wife and friend in personal. What was that experience for you? Because when you came on today, I mean, we just had the best few minutes of just kind of seeing each other again, and I thought it was kind of important to bring up, if you're good with that.
Yeah. So over the past few months, I also filed for divorce. Which is another life-changing moment or decision. And I think that the letting go is, I think we all, again, we come and we think there's all of these things and all of these expectations and who we're supposed to be, and sometimes just being like, what, this isn't what I signed up for. And this isn't what I desire, and this isn't working for me. And I think one of my big journeys from last year, and then it's definitely carrying into this year, is I'm okay if you don't like me, and I'm even more okay if I trigger you.
I love that. Say that again, because I think that is so fantastic. Say that again.
I'm okay if you don't like me, but I'm even more okay if I trigger you.
Yeah. And what does that mean specifically for you? Because I love that so much.
So I really, all I wanted in life was people to like me. Like, I remember being such a chameleon in middle school. Like, oh, you don't like her? I don't like her either. Oh, you don't like that color? I don't like that color either. Like, literally, but that was like the person who got married. Like, who do you need me to be in order for you to marry me? Like, let me contort myself into this person.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
And that was that. So I guess that's what our 20s are for.
Right, totally.
But I also feel that I constantly would gauge what I was saying to be appropriate and not offend other people.
Yeah.
And was really taming myself down in lots of relationships. Even client relationships. And I even remember like not like I work with a lot of law firms and being like, well, law firm isn't going to hire a girl that wears a leopard blazer, and a law firm isn't going to hire a girl. I remember someone once told me, I remember I did a post on LinkedIn um, about bringing sexy back, and it was for Valentine's Day. And I did it because a lot of my clients share with me like that they wear a work shirt and jeans for a date night. And I'm like, that is not okay. like, let's figure out like who you are and what makes you feel good. But being told like you can't talk about that on LinkedIn. I am so sick of people telling me what I can and I cannot talk about.
Yeah.
I know when I talk about things that matter to me, they matter to other people and they change other people's lives. And if that bothers you, you don't have to listen.
100%. That's why I started this podcast, was really for that reason too, is I want people to really speak about things that are meaningful and important to them, because 9 times out of 10, they're so happy they heard that. And I was on a podcast the other day, and the lady whose podcast I was on, she goes, I love the part that you speak about things out loud that other people don't want to say. And I said, yes, that's exactly. And I said, and that took me a long time to learn that. And so if a podcast for me, if it gets viral and likes and whatever, great. But if it changes one person's life and they needed to hear this message, then I feel the episode was meant to go out. And that's truly important for me. We are getting close to time, and I want to give you a moment. If there's any last minute comments that you would like to say, and if you could also, for the person who is just entering into corporate America, what is some advice that you could give to them? Because there are people who are struggling, not only people who are just maybe getting out of school and it's their first job, or people who are moving up into other careers, where I love the point where you said, I brought myself into debt. And there are people who are struggling, but want to look good and feel good. And what would be your advice for those folks?
I think that the way that we approach getting dressed is broken. So never go into your closet or shopping or packing for a trip or going to an interview saying, what should I wear? That is not a good question. That does not yield a good result. A better question is, how do I need my wardrobe to support me today?
Fantastic.
Like, that is going to get you a much better result, and also is going to find you things from what you already have in your closet.
Can you say those two things again? Because I think I find words to be so important on how we use that. If you could repeat those two things again, please.
So every person addresses getting dressed with, what do I wear? Like, we text a friend, we Google it, like, that's not a good question. You're a coach. Like, that's not an answerable question. Right. That's a bad question.
Yes.
So instead of the what do I wear, because that doesn't solve anything, to say, how do I need my clothes to support me today? It changes the energy. It changes the thought process. It gets you in forward momentum, because then you could think about things like, it's going to be raining and I don't want to ruin my shoes, or I have to walk 3 miles, or I'm going to this meeting and I want to feel powerful. Red makes me feel powerful. Like, have it so clothes get to be your support system and support what you're going through, as opposed to this is just this big gaping hole that you don't even know where to start.
Love it. I love it. And to get out of that stress, because that's the one thing too that people get so stressed out about. And then now the enjoyment of going into your closet is no more, or looking at clothes as not something enjoyment and fun and exciting. It's going into the dreaded closet, and then the stress of what going into your closet actually means. So I think that is fantastic. And then my second question is, how can you support people that are listening who may be struggling, but clothes are important to them, and they want to show up as themselves?
I would just say, figure out who yourself is really, I think that every single person really does that. What should I wear again? Or what's everyone else wearing? And you really need to just craft who you are through the lens of your visual signature. And it's not that complicated. I mean, yeah, it is, because people hire me because, but like, you don't have to make it that complicated. It could be just,
and it doesn't have to be. There are stores out there that fit everyone's budget, but still going back to the point that you were saying is knowing what makes you feel good, going into any store, and keeping that in mind, and going into a store that says, how can this store support me and how I'm feeling? I think that's an excellent connection for people, because and I think it can support people on all different income levels.
Yeah.
What would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Like, and then the other question that's really, really helpful is really asking, would my future self wear this? Because I think there's a lot of scarcity that is involved. A lot of us holding on to stuff for way too long. And if you could quickly be like, me in 5 years would never like put up with this with a garment, like that, it really helps that like separation of like, and getting into a much different energy with how you're deciding what to wear.
I love that. Those are excellent points. Thank you so much. And this brings us to Ask Dr. Alison. What question do you have for me?
If you could wear only one thing, what would it be?
If I could only wear one thing. Oh gosh.
Like a signature, not your glasses, but like if it was like a thing that you would wear like all the time. And it could be sweatpants. Don't like, no shame.
I will tell you, it's flip-flops. It is absolutely flip-flops. But I will tell you, because I was a competitive athlete and ran, I will tell you it has to be very comfortable flip-flops. So I will give a shout out to UFAs. They do not sponsor this podcast or anything, but I do love it because they're very comfortable. They do come in slides or flip-flops, and their colors are great. They have a lot of really nice, vibrant colors. So, and I will tell you that there have been many podcasts where from up above look like this, and down below I had some really comfortable flip-flops. And I have worn them in the rain, in the snow, and I love flip-flops. But I am a flat-footed individual, which made me excellent in swimming, which was my sport starting at the age of 6. Wow. So I think that's where the probably my flip-flop addiction came from. And then as you said, as we get older, we like more comfortable, you know, like, and that's maybe where the price point of the flip-flops tend to go up a little
higher. It was a good investment.
Right. They become investment flip-flops. And so, but yes, that would definitely be my clothing or accessory of choice, if you will. So that's a great question. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Young Conversations podcast. A huge thank you to Melanie Lippman for sharing her unconventional journey and personal journey with us. I am very grateful for that. And to all of you out there, thanks for joining us on today's show. If this episode really impacted you, please follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so we can keep these unconversations going. Thank you so much again, Melanie.
Thank you.